to do linkages, there's 3 types. We'll start with the hinge pin, the pin linkage. So we'll do a 10 by 10 cube. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to make another cube, move it over straight and leave a gap. So that's about a unit of 1 gap. All right. Now, I want to put a pin in this. So what I'm going to do, and this is just the kind of the easiest way for me to show you how to do it. I'm going to change the change to this plane, the plane of this face, because that's the orientation I want it to be in. I'm going to go ahead and make a cylinder, make it 3, and then I'm just going to make it 12 long. Then I'm going to make another cylinder, and this will ensure that they are aligned. Now this one I don't want to be 3, I'm going to make it 3.3, and I'm going to make it the same length just to make life easier. Now, I want these to interact with these cylinders over here. So one of the easiest ways you can do it is just to go ahead and place it. However, if you notice, you do not have a snap point. Okay. So now I have my cylinders within my 2 spheres. My cylinders within my cubes. So now I have my cylinders and my cubes. Yay. I'm just going to move them like this so that I have interaction on both sides. Now, when we look at this, I want one of them to have an opening and one of them to be attached to the pin. So the opening is being created by the larger cylinder, and you can just say subtract. I want to keep this cube and I want to get rid of that cylinder. So now you can see that there's an opening down here and no longer here, any cylinder. Then you just union this cube with this pin. So if you look at it now in X-ray, you'll see that you have a pin within this cube here and an opening to accept that pin. So this is really just a pivoting opening. It won't keep your pieces from separating. So it's a little bit more rudimentary. The next thing I want to show you is how to do linkages, like a link, like you were going to make a chain. And for me, I think the easiest way to do it is to just make a circle. All right. And then create a line. You're going to use that line in a minute. You're going to use that line in a minute to create, to trim. So I'm going to make this a little bit elongated so you can tell what I'm doing. And then I'm going to trim this out, right? Make another circle. Okay. And then basically just tie it together. And this is going to be your link for the most part. Now it is 2D, so you can't use this. Here's your link. So you need to do a sweep. So make sure you join it, then create a circle, however big you want it to be. I'm going to do 1.5, and then just sweep it. Now, depending on how large your object is, you may want it thinner or you may want it smaller. It just depends. So this is flat. I'm going to need 2 of these, so I'm going to go ahead and copy it. And I'll take it from here and put it in this location. I'm not probably going to keep it there, but for the time being, I will. And I'm just going to do a 3D rotate. Now, I'm going to rotate this around this base point on whatever axis you're on, I don't know, by 45 degrees. And then this one I'm going to do the same, but I'm going to go opposite. So I'm going to do the same point, same axis, but I'm negative. So what this is going to create is 2 links separated enough that they can print, but set at a 45, so if you look at it, they're flat on the panel. So you can actually print them like this. They won't adhere. They'll just print up the sides, and there'll always be something that they can print, that can lay the print material on the PLA or whatever you're using. So this works if you're just going to do a chain. However, to add more pieces to the chain, these are going to interact. They're too far into the opening of that link. So really these need to be separated a little bit, and just make sure they're separated enough that you don't have any interaction anywhere, but that you have enough opening. So this could be, you could make a full chain this way if you wanted. But look, see, I'm having the interaction. So you have to, whoops, make sure that this one's far enough back. Or maybe not as big. It really just depends. If you look at it like this, you should be able to see what that looks like. To do it, you have to, do a link space here, and then you would do a mirror of just one of them here, straight down. Sorry. And go on and on and on. Now, if you're going to do an actual snake or something along those lines, you're going to have to attach pieces in between these links. So you say, let's just put a sphere in here so you can see it. What I'm talking about is, say your snake body is mainly going to be spheres, and you're going to move them around a little bit here and there, but for the most part it's just going to be circles, or you're making whatever you're making, a centipede. So now what you'll have are your two bodies, whatever shape this is going to be, connected, and then you'll have two more and two more and two more. So if I wanted more, I would just find the center point of that circle and attach it there and just keep going. Okay. Now, these can be more elaborate. I'm sure you've seen where they do the dragons, things like that. Yes, you can do the same detail, but you are going to have to manipulate them a little bit more to make sure that they interact the way you want them to. So it maybe not a sphere, it's going to have a different shape to it. So just analyze the pieces that you're trying to create in order to create the design you're intending. Okay. The last one is a pivot point. So we'll go ahead and let's make a box. Same box we did. So we'll do the same box we did before, which was 10 by 10 by 10. Doesn't matter if it's below plane or not. If you want it above plane, just move it up the 10. Okay. So with this one, you're going to actually have a sphere inside instead of a pin, and the sphere needs to be within the actual cube. So I'm going to put it in wireframe, and I'm going to go ahead and make that sphere. And a different way you can do it instead of reference lines, because reference lines can be tricky sometimes, is just go ahead and put a line from corner to corner, and that's going to give you a midpoint. And you can put the sphere on the midpoint, right? So now I just want to make sure I'm looking at it straight on. And I want it to have enough shape around it that it's not going to be too difficult. So let's see what size that is. That radius, let's make it 3.3. And then I'm going to make another sphere here on that midpoint. And this one's going to be 3.8. Okay. Remember, I need to create an opening for this to spin around. So the next thing I need to do is do a cylinder. And I'm going to do that with this face active. Okay. And I want to do it on here. And I don't necessarily want it the same diameter as the sphere. I want it a little bit less. So let's say 2. And then I'm going to pull it out. And you'll see what that does. Okay, so now if I look at that from the top and I put it in X-ray, you will see that I have my cylinder and 2 spheres. So in wireframe, these 2 spheres in the center of the cube. Now, that's not where they're going to lie because they won't be able to come out. So I'm going to shift them when I look at the top, and I'm going to shift them so that they take out some of the face of the cube. Otherwise, you're not going to have the pivot that you want. So then this needs to back off a little bit, so I'll back that off. Now I'm going to subtract this from my cube, the larger of the two spheres. So subtract, I want to keep this one, and I want to delete that one. So you can see the opening. And then what you need to make sure of is that this, I'll turn that off, this sphere cannot get past the edge. It needs to be inside, not be able to fall out. So just confirm that. This one is fine. And then I'm going to attach these two together just by a union. So now I have this one and this one become one piece, right? Let me take this out because it's confusing. So now I have an opening. If I want, the more movement I want, the wider this is going to be. The other way I can make that opening a little softer is to go ahead and do a fillet. That's too large, so just down arrow to radius. I don't want it to be 1. Let's make it a third. And if I look at that in conceptual, you can see that it's softened. You can also soften with fillet edge this piece here. And let's do a half on that one. And you can see it softens that too. So now what you would do is say you were making like a knee joint, or you were making just a toy of some sort. You could go ahead, if your snaps are on, and put your next object here. So maybe this sphere is going to be part of a joint, another joint that's attached, so it can go in a circle. So that's the basics of a hinge type of joint, a chain, or a pivot.